Some people said, well, was it hell, Ray? I don't know. All I know, it was the complete opposite to where I was the first time that I died in the back of the ambulance. The most blissful place, but this was the opposite. It was not a place where you would want to be. I couldn't get out of there fast enough.
Hello, passionate listeners and watchers. Welcome to Passion Harvest. I am Luisa, your host. Thank you so much for joining me wherever you are in the world right now. Our guest today is Raymond O'Brien. Raymond has died 10 times. He knew of his upcoming death, and when he transitioned to the other side, he became one with everything and encountered spiritual beings. This is his story and this is his passion. Raymond O'Brien, welcome to Passion Harvest. I'm so excited to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh my
it's
gosh.
Always nice to.
It's my pleasure.
You're more than welcome.
So you've died 10 times.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's one way of summing it up. Wow is very, very, very true. 10 cardiac arrests, all in one night, all within an hour. And the fight goes on. I had 6 heart attacks. So yeah, still here.
If you feel comfortable, would you mind sharing with the audience your near-death experience?
I was at work and I was driving home. This voice in my head told me distinctly that you're going to die. And it rattled me so much that when I got home, the first thing I did was I called my mother. And Mum was German. She said, "Na, was machst du denn? What's wrong?" I said, I was so alarmed. I said, "Mum, I just said this voice in my head and it's telling me that I'm going to die." She said, "What voice?" I said, "You know, the voice." And all she said was, "Oh." So this was on a Wednesday late afternoon. Fast forward to Sunday night, in actual fact, in this very room that I'm sitting in, I'd finished playing the guitar. I had a cat at the time of 20 years old. He was called Mr. B. And he was quite old. He was the love of my life. Oh. And I went to bed. I lay down in bed. I put on my left-hand side, and I felt the most excruciating stabbing pain in my chest. Now, even though I was a smoker and a drinker, I was very fit. And so I got out of bed and I pulled some press-ups down by the side of the bed, and that must have opened up the artery to the heart. And I thought it was chest pain because I'd started a new regime of exercises. Got back to bed, turned on me right, nope. Turned on me back, nope. Turned on my left. By this time, my heart had stopped. And I was like starting to, couldn't breathe. So the voice said, "Get out of bed. You have to get out of bed. Get out of bed now." And I got out of bed, put my feet over the side of the bed, and I remember gasping for air, and the pain was excruciating coming from my chest. Someone said, "Get up. You have to go downstairs." So I went downstairs, turned on the living room light, and there was my Mr. B curled up in the corner of my settee, my sofa. And it was the way he looked at me, Luisa. I knew I was in trouble. I remember distinctly looking at him, and I could hear him almost in my mind going, "What is wrong with you?" And I replied back to him, "I know, Mr. B." I said, "I'm feeling really bad." And I picked my cordless phone up. And here in the UK, if you want to call for the paramedics, you dial 999. Mm-hmm. And I remember standing there looking at my cat, and I hit the 2 9s, and the next thing, I just blacked out. And fast forward, there I am lying on the floor in my front room, unconscious, got the cordless phone in my left hand, and I smelt something and felt a rasp on my nose, and which made me open my eyes. And I've got this hand was outstretched, and my head was on my bicep. And as I opened my eyes, it was Bill. He was licking my nose, and the smell was his breath. It was like smelling salts. And I remember looking at him with his eyes looking back at me, and I looked at the phone in my hand, and I'd realised that I'm in serious trouble. So I'd hit the last 9, got through to the operator. I'm still lying on the floor trying to figure out what's going on. And the operator asked me, "What's up?" Told about chest pains. She told me what to do. It was about 11:15 at night. 12, sorry, tell a lie, about 11:45. And I live in a very quiet town. So the operator told me what to do, told me to sit down, open the front door, and just wait for the ambulance. So I sat there with my cat and we waited. And because it's, as I said, such a quiet town, off in the distance, I could hear the siren going. And I was drifting in and out of consciousness before they got to me. And I remember thinking, well, if this is it, Ray, this is it. And at that point, there was a tap at the door and a voice, "Hello, paramedics, can we come in?" And I could just about lift my head and responded, "Yes, yeah, come in." And the two of them came in. It was a man and a woman. I remember the woman's name distinctly. Her name was Rebecca. Can't remember the driver's name. Could have been Dave. They both went, "Wow, fella, you look pretty rough. What's up?" I said, "I've got the most incredible chest pains." So they opened everything up, put probes on me, and then decided that, well, we've got to walk you to the ambulance. So they walked me out of my house. And from being a really fit guy to hardly being able to walk was one of the biggest shocks. They walked me into the back of the ambulance, really puffing and panting, and they put me down on the bed in the back of the ambulance, and I couldn't breathe at this point. The heart was just not playing. It didn't matter what they put into me, Luisa, the heart was not going to play. And so the heart kept stopping. I couldn't breathe. The oxygen blood levels, I remember them saying, "You have to breathe, Ray, because you're down to 26% oxygen levels. It's you're in a serious place." And I remember Rebecca turning her back to me. And as she turned her back, I heard this voice say, "If ever there was a time to check out, now's the time to check out." And I put this chin onto my right shoulder, and the next thing, I was on the other side. I'm a little tiny soul who's completely naked, sexless soul, maybe about 4.5, 5 foot high, silver in color. I knew that I was on the other side. Don't ask me how, but I instinctively knew. And the first thing I felt was the grass under my feet. And the grass felt like the softest cat fur I had ever experienced. The grass was alive. I felt it poke through my toes. And I remember looking down at my toes and kind of just squiggling them just to feel how smooth the grass was, the fur grass, should I say. And as I'm doing this, I'm met by the wind. And it came from the right-hand side. And it went through me. It was the warmest, most peaceful but powerful thing that I had experienced at that point. And it literally said, "Wait here." And off in the distance was 2 men and 3 women. The 3 women were all dressed in white, with the head scarf, veils on, and the 2 men had white togas on. One man had a brown tan book. I'll never forget him. And it seemed to me that the people who held the power here on the other side was the women. That's the first thing that struck me. And that was when I felt at my safest. I felt comfortable where I was. So I'm standing up, I'm looking at these 5 beings off not too far away from me. And the first lady has turned and looked at me, and she gave me the most amazing smile. She turned back and said to the second lady, I couldn't really hear, but she leant past and looked at, and so did the third lady. The 2 men hadn't even looked at me at this point, but somehow I'd found the ability to move. But before I did, I was being a bit curious. I remember saying to myself, I wonder where I go to get my wings. So I didn't know anything more than that. But the next thing I know, I've drifted up and I floated over to the old guy who looked like Santa Claus. And I heard one of the women say to him, "Raymond's here." And I'm now at shoulder level to him, and I'm looking at this book that he's got in his hand. And all he said was he shouldn't be here. And he did that just with a wave of his hand. And with the wave of his hand, I woke up in the back of the ambulance. And I swear I thought I'd fallen asleep. And I've looked up, and there's Rebecca, the paramedic, looking at me like really stunned. And she went, Ray, are you okay? Yeah, I am. I felt really guilty because I knew I shouldn't have checked out. And I said, I'm fine. If you let me get up, I'll go back in. She went, no, Ray. She said, you're still in the back of the ambulance. She said, you died. and she leant over to me. She flicked the clock. She said, "You died at exactly 12 o'clock." She said, she said, "Your eyes are in the back of your head." She said, "When we've just defibrillated you back to life." And I'm propped up. I'm looking up at her like, and I'm thinking she's wrong. She's got the wrong end of this. So I'll go along with it. I'll go along with the story. I can't defend myself. I can only believe what she has told me. So we take off in the back of the ambulance. The hospital was literally 10 minutes away from my home, and I remember the ambulance pull up outside A&E. I could hear the beeping going on as it reversed back. The doors burst open. I got bounced out the back. I distinctly remember that, and I remember being wheeled through the corridors. And I remember looking at the fluorescent lights flicking over my head and still kind of trying to get a grip of things and kind of saying, "I don't know what's gone wrong here, Ray, but something really traumatic has happened to you." Get into the ICU unit, and the place is obviously waiting for me. And then it started. It went from heavenly to, and when I say heavenly, when I was on the other side, there's a scent to heaven, and it's the scent of the most beautiful roses that you could imagine. That is the smell of the wind. So I went from this deep joy to being in the ICU unit where everything was really cold. I was already losing body heat because I was constantly dying. And then I remember having my clothes cut off me. I remember being injected. And then the next thing I remember was an immense amount of pain as they defibrillated me back to life. This went on probably about the third death. I had become aware of what was going on. The penny had kind of dropped of like, oh, they haven't got it wrong, Ray. This is actually happening to you. And I felt cold, really, really cold. Out of the corner of my eye, I seen something move behind the staff. It wasn't an earthly, it wasn't a silhouette of a body. It was an unusual shape, and I watched it come around the side of the gurney, and it came up along the side of the gurney and almost plugged into my life. And I felt my life force just sort of oozing out from my side. I felt completely powerless to do that. And then I'm gone. I've gone again. They defibrillate me again. Within seconds, I suppose, and I'm back. I've now had an out-of-body experience where I'm now sitting on my forehead, and I'm watching the staff work on me. I knew that, again, that I may not make this because of how quickly my body was losing temperature. I could feel under the balls of my feet, where I was sitting on my forehead, of how cold and clammy my body was. And I found myself in a place called the Grey. So here I am on the other side in this place, which everything was grey. I'm a little tiny soul. I found myself at waist height level, and it was like a football game, like where the audience, the crowd was slowly shuffling out. And I felt myself rise up at a really slow pace. And I've seen over the heads of the crowd, there was hundreds of people all shuffling in one direction. There was only different shades of grey. That was all there was. There was no other colours than that. People seemed to be wearing these great big trench coats with their heads down and just hunched up. People seemed to be afraid to look up. And as I got to just about above head level, it just went bang right in front of me, and then the wind came along. And the wind was not the wind that I met first time. This wind was like razor wire, and it was cracking over people's heads. And as it cracked, it shattered into like thousands of bits of like little bits of graphite. And I remember thinking to myself, thank God I'm getting out of here. The next thing I recall is my nose is now on the ceiling tile of the A&E room, and I'm falling backwards into my body. I've crashed into my body with such a force that when they defibrillated me, I came up like one of those Hammer House horror movies. I was flat but I came up at a complete 90-degree angle. And I remember the crash team recoiling back and gasping, and I pointed my finger at them. And I remember swearing and telling them that I really needed that, and I crashed back. And so they wheeled me back onto the ICU unit. It was now 2 o'clock in the morning, and they put morphine into me and all sorts of drugs they put into me. So they told me later, and I slept until about 8 o'clock the next morning. And my ribs had been cracked, my teeth had been cracked. I was in an awful lot of pain.
I've just got 2 more questions.
Yes.
What do you spoke about that grey realm
Yeah.
on one of the times that you died. What do you think that grey dimension was?
I don't know what the grey was, but what I do know is that it was somewhere where I wouldn't want to be ending up again. I couldn't get out of there quick enough. It looked like some people said, well, was it hell, Ray? I don't know. All I know, it was the complete opposite to where I was the first time that I died in the back of the ambulance, the most blissful place. But this was the opposite. It was not a place where you would want to be. I couldn't get out of there fast enough, to be honest with you.
And did you have any indication of why the other souls that you saw remained there?
There was nothing. There was no clues at the time that I was there. Clues came afterwards, maybe like the processing, when I started to compare what was it like in what I assumed to be, and I don't use the word lightly, heaven. And if you want to compare this hell, well, if it makes the description easier, I honestly, I haven't got an answer. It was only when, after the event, what purpose does it serve? Who goes there? Why was I shown it? Why was I allowed out of there? Why was I allowed to live? Is
it something you might be afraid of when you transition? When you die to go there?
Yes, it is something which frightens me. It's something that I try not to think too much about.
Okay. Sorry to bring it up. I just said
no. Honestly, Luisa, it's fine. I'm very bounded with it. I've had to be over all of the years. My only answer to that is, which settles me down, is that my life is very boundaried now. I can honestly say that I wasn't the best of men before my experience. But now everything that I do is very measured. Do no harm is my motto. Kind of because of the fear of, it's the way that I look at it, I haven't got enough time to make amends anymore for the wrongs that I've done in the past. And I think the 10 cardiac arrests, the pain of that, the heart attacks, probably the heart attacks were more painful than the cardiac arrest. For distressing wise, a cardiac arrest is really distressing because in effect you suffocate to death, and that's a pretty gruesome way to go. Been there, seen it, done it on many occasions. It's not good. Can sort of upset your day, shall we say? But the heart attacks are the kiddie, and for pain. So I'm a great believer in karma. I believe that everything that happened to me, pain, loss of connection with families, and was all had its karmic value. But I honestly believe now that I paid my dues, keep being the man that I am, and treat others the way that I'd like to be treated myself. Really, so it's had a profound effect on me, an absolutely profound effect.
I think you kind of answered my next question. What would your advice be for people to live their best, most aligned life?
Do no harm. As simple as that. The medical profession's motto is do no harm.
In all areas of your life.
Yes.
Not just one
Yes, yeah, do, and that was, I know it's really difficult for those that feel of your viewers who are watching this. Some of us do harm, but unintentionally, So it's I was doing harm with intent. It is a joy and it's realizing that all we have is the moment and memories. Everything else is just an illusion, a fantasy. And to be, I often say, when you have those quiet moments and you can sit on your own and ask yourself, how have I been treating others? And if you can come back with that answer of, yeah, I'm okay, well, then you're going to be all right. But if you were like I wasn't a nice guy, deserved what happened to me, glad it happened to me, because otherwise I wouldn't have been pinballed into the direction that I'm on now. So I'm eternally grateful for the pain, for the joy of coming back here, for the animals, sitting here talking to you.
I so appreciate your openness and honesty.
You're more than welcome.
Just on a final note, I've asked all the questions.
Yes.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with the Passion Harvest audience that I haven't asked?
First off, thanks for watching. Secondly, never give up hope. That's probably, no matter how bad things seem, there's always somebody you can talk to. So, don't give up. Don't be nasty. Just be who you are. Be nice. Treat people how you want to be treated. And then, you probably won't go to the grave. But just kind of remember, and I always often remember, is that death is the driver of life. It drives everything. We've seen it with COVID, how people have just freaked out about it. Work-wise, things went ballistic, because there is that fear of death, it's and how it's put upon us. So I come from a different approach to most people who have had an NDE experience of my degree of complexity, shall we say. And I've put it to help others, so that's probably the best way that I can do it. And it's such an honour to be asked to come on and have this interview.
It's a pleasure. Well, Raymond O'Brien, thank you so much for being on Passion Harvest.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for asking me. Good luck, everybody. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
If you liked this episode, please do subscribe for weekly passionate, inspirational interviews.